Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. It is Friday, November 4th. I am your host, Q, coming to you from the frozen tundras of my parents' basement because they refuse to turn on the heat because it is a bear market. My co-host, P, our fellow co-host and producer, Chris. How goes it, gentlemen?
It goes amazingly as always. I'm ready to rock. I've got my soundboard here, got some air horns. It's Friday. We're wearing beanies in solidarity.
Beanie o'clock. I'm ready. Let's go.
I appreciate the solidarity. I understand your guys' heaters work, though, and my dad just refuses to turn ours on.
They work, but I'm not turning them on. I'm stacking those sats instead.
Absolutely. You could just grab a jacket, put on a beanie, and boom, there you go. More sats in your wallet. But it is Friday, November 4th, and we're going to kick things off with some Bitcoin news. I'm going to start, though, and I'm going to hijack this with the breaking news out of Watcher Guru per Axios. We are anticipating an announcement from former President Donald Trump that he will be running for president in 2024.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I don't know what election rules. I think it was he's going to announce after the midterms. I think there's some campaign rules that you're not allowed to announce before a midterm election or some shit. So very interesting.
Whoa. I got to get my hat back out. I may have to change hat in the middle of the stream. I need my Make America Great Again hat. Wow.
I wonder though, if this rumor will affect the upcoming midterms. Tuesday is election day for those who will be voting. It is your right to vote. It is also your right to choose to not vote. Whatever you decide is up to you. We at Bitcoin Magazine Live will be doing an episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live during our normal time, but we will also be giving you guys an election special during the evening to go over some of the results coming in Tuesday night. So it will be P, myself, and a fan favorite, Nolan Bowerly. So you're not going to want to miss it. Set your alarms for, Chris, it's at 7 p.m. Eastern time or 6 p.m. Eastern time?
That'll be 9 p.m. Eastern time till 11 p.m. Eastern time.
Got it. 9 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to kick things off back here on the stream. So set your alarms if that is of interest to you. I hijacked the stream for a little bit because I just wanted to bring up, this is very interesting. It will be interesting to see if this affects anything. Chris is celebrating the return of Donald Trump.
I mean, how's he going to promote his promoting it on Truth Social? Isn't there 3 people on that website? Unless this is
I
Elon.
am one of Donald Trump's followers.
There are dozens of people, dozens of accounts on Truth Social. Okay.
Q's one of them. He's actually his main supporter and main follower.
Dude, I genuinely go and look every day.
That includes the bots, though. I want to be clear.
Before we dive into the rest of the news stories, I want to share this because this is a true thing that I had to go on to Truth Social. But this was 2 months ago. On liberal Twitter, people were laughing at Donald Trump's meltdown on Truth Social. And he started posting things like, why are people so mean? They're so mean to me. They all bully me. And I for sure thought oh, there's no way these are real. There's no way these are real posts. But no, Donald Trump took to Truth Social one night to vent his frustrations about how he is getting bullied by mainstream media. I just thought that was
listen,
genius.
He was sitting in the Trump Tower in his apartment, sipping some Merlot.
He's in Mar-a-Lago right now, bro. What are you kidding?
That's true. He can be at Trump Tower. I don't know where he is, but he's just sipping his Merlot and he's crying into Truth Social, being about how he's getting bullied online.
Wait, when did this break? Did this literally just break?
This broke literally 3 minutes ago. That Donald, per Watcher Guru, per Axios, on November 14th, he will announce that he's going to run for president in 2024. So you heard it here first. Rumble, YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe down below for YouTube. Rumble up above. P, let's talk about our thumbnails today, though.
Let's fucking go. All right. We've been talking about Do Kwon, famed creator of the Terra Luna debacle. People lost a fuck ton of money. He has been proclaiming his innocence, doing interviews while mysteriously staying one step ahead of the law, catch me if you can style. And it has now been confirmed, revealed that the Terra co-founder is in Europe. Specifically, It's been revealed by South Korean prosecutors that he is an illegal immigrant in Europe. They've also revealed that they now have evidence that he did manipulate Terra's market price. He has been claiming that he, as I said, is innocent. He did a big interview in a mysterious, unnamed location where he was like, look, I don't even know what's going on. No one has talked to me. There have been no official communications. I'm just doing my thing. And I'm sure he's maintaining the same bullshit story even now, as he just magically decided to leave the country he was in and travel around Europe as an illegal immigrant. So he's clearly on the lam. He is clearly trying to escape prosecution. It's going to be very interesting to see how this continues to play out. Yeah, I will be fascinated to see how public opinion tracks the story. Yeah. What do you guys think? Innocent? Guilty? Both?
I mean, look, we're watching real life Catch Me If You Can. Like, that's really what it comes down to. Like, Do Kwon is still tweeting out, the borderless travel that you can accomplish in Europe, I think, is starting to backfire a little bit during this issue. Ultimately, like, we all know the clown that Do Kwon is. We know how much he scammed people out of money. There were rumors spiraling that, he's working on a new project that he's going to release imminently as well. This is a person who, while not a physical danger to any person, in my opinion, like, just like that physique, I'm not intimidated by, and I weigh like 101 pounds. Like, I'm sorry, Do Kwon, if you're like 400 pounds, maybe I'd be a little bit more afraid of you. But he is cunning. And I think that's where the danger with him lies, because he could very easily elude everyone. He could very easily be involved with another scam, another Ponzi scheme, another just rug pull, but not actually have his name out there as long as he's free. So I think he is a danger to Bitcoin only so long as regulators still think Bitcoin and crypto are the same thing.
I think Do Kwon is a Bitcoin bull because Terra Luna is worthless. He's on like every government list, and I think he's buying non KYC Bitcoin like we tell you to do all the time, and that's how he's surviving and thriving wherever he is. So that's just me.
I guess I will steal this from, I think it was Magoo. I was in a spaces last night just listening, that after our Bitcoin Magazine Pro Spaces, TXMC, Magoo, Dylan LeClaire, they were all just sort of talking. I think Bitcoin Tina as well joined for a little bit. And they brought up that at one point, both Michael Saylor and Do Kwon bought billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin to like barely move the price up, just more so to like hold the price steady at certain points. So that just goes to show you how strong this bear market current really is. How I don't really give a shit if Do Kwon is buying KYC free Bitcoin. Like, fine, that's just Bitcoin that'll eventually get lost. Like, that will eventually just be Bitcoin that can never be used, because Do Kwon will eventually get got. And once he's got, like, that Bitcoin will never be, transferred around, circulated, or shared. P, are you upset that we're still talking about Do Kwon all these months later?
Your bingo card is full now. No,
wait, P, you were muted. There you go. Now your bingo card's full.
Thank you. It was an important point there. No, I think we absolutely should still be talking about him. I think that it is important that we are discussing and holding people accountable who create systems like this. So many influencers in the quote unquote crypto space were promoting Terra Luna and were saying that it's basically a risk-free asset. Like, you're good to go. And I don't want that to be forgotten. It will be. When we enter the next bull market, there will be a new thing that's touted as being basically risk-free, and everyone will have forgotten about this. Also, I do worry that the focus on this is simply a way for the powers that be to try to enforce overreaching regulation on Bitcoin, even though this has nothing to do with Bitcoin. So that makes me sad. But yeah, fuck it. Why not? He's on the lam. He's running from justice. He needs that justice transaction. That's a lightning reference. I also do want to clarify here. The Axios story about Trump running is not an announcement that he is definitely going to run. It's kind of a bullshit story from Axios, which was then picked up by Watcher Guru. It is instead, former President Trump's inner circle is discussing announcing the launch of a 2024 presidential campaign on November 14th. So it's a bit of a stretch, but we all know he's going to announce it anyway. He's loves to sell his body to the night. And by that, of course, I mean drum up as much controversy as possible. He's very good at it.
Yeah, I want to maybe get canceled by addressing this in this way, but I noticed that we are being called, or we're being told that we have Trump derangement syndrome in the Rumble chat, simply because we brought up a critical point of view of Donald Trump. And to you, good sir, Mr. Sluggo123, do you believe that Kanye West and or Kyrie Irving are anti-Semitic as well? Because you just say something critical, you therefore must be a hater? Come on now. Do not silence me. This is a free speech platform. You are on Rumble. I should be allowed to say whatever I damn well please. If that is critical of what you believe, I don't really give a shit. Go cry about it.
Oh, God.
Speaking
of people that are fucking other people over, I want to hear about SBF. Hit us with it.
So we talk a lot about scammers. We talk a lot about rug pulls. We talk a lot about Ponzi schemes. But our dear friend Dylan LeClaire really broke down how FTX has just been making money out of nowhere, foisting it onto retail, and then just being like, oh, sorry, it's worth nothing now, but all the value I have absorbed. So what's really going on? Looks like there's a token called FTT, and it's primarily trading on FTX. But through some digging, we found that Alameda owns most of the FTT tokens in circulations. So what do? FTX partners up with Alameda, dumps it all over retail. 99% of the tokens are held by the top 1% of addresses, of which the largest holder is a hedge fund, Alameda Research, whose VC arm recently merged with FTX. Almost like FTX is incentivized to dump FTT and all of Alameda's FTT on unsuspecting retail so that they can hold the value of that token in something else that will maintain that value while FTT craters and crashes. Also from our dear friend Dylan, per CoinDesk, Alameda Research has $14.6 billion of assets against $8 billion of liability. Their assets include $3.66 billion of FTT, $2.16 billion of FTT collateral, $3.37 billion of crypto, some Solana, some lock Solana, $134 million USD, and $2 billion of equity securities. Most net equity is tied in completely illiquid altcoins. This is cherry on top now. If you've been following along, what I essentially listed out for you is Alameda holds about $5.82 billion of FTT. The market cap of FTT is $3.35 billion. It doesn't make sense. How? How can you have a market cap less than the total amount that you hold unless you just artificially created this out of nowhere? I need to fix my headphones, but
I love that your headphones fell down. I think that
I'm just I'm flabbergasted. And the worst part of all of this, in my opinion, and this isn't really being openly discussed in relations to this story, there are separate stories going on about this, but SBF and friend of the show, Anthony Scaramucci, have combined to spend about $40 million on this election cycle. I saw some statistic. I'm just going to say it. I need to fact check it. So fact checkers, Elon Musk, feel free to fact check me. 14 different Democratic primary winners were backed by SBF. SBF is bankrolling a lot of politicians this time around. Let me ask you a real simple question, P. If the incentive is, if I align myself with SBF, I get more campaign dollars. Are you going to go and attack SBF as a politician? Are you going to go and be critical of his work, his business, and what his dealings are? Or are you incentivized to work with him because he's donating to your campaign?
I mean, the answer is obvious. You're incentivized to work with him because he's donating to your campaign. The question is, who is going to give you the most money? Because that's how these things get decided.
And unfortunately, it looks like it's SBF. SBF is just writing check after check for all these politicians.
I mean, he's rich as fuck.
I want to emphasize that point because you're not going to see them go after SBF and FTX in the same way you're going to see them go after big tech. They're not going to go after SBF in the same way that you're going to see them go after Do Kwon even. Like, and I'm not saying Do Kwon is a lesser evil than SBF. They're both deserve their own cell in hell where they will be tortured for all of eternity, but that is a separate issue. I will say SBF does a lot of, like, he has a really good publicity team. Over the weekend, my girlfriend sent me a TikTok of like, oh, like, have you interviewed this guy? I feel like he would be great for your show. And it was a guy doing a background on like all of the humanitarian efforts and donations and charity work that SBF does. And I was like, yeah, this is just a publicity bit. Like SBF is the worst of the worst. And it's a shame because I think, unfortunately, people are going to ignore things like this that are so blatantly fraudulent and wrong and terrible because he donated to my political campaign. So I'm not going to say anything about that. And you know what? He has this charity about something that I like. So I don't want to be too critical on the guy. Fuck that.
Yeah, and to further your point, Q, I think in the 2020 primaries, I think he was the second highest donor, only behind George Soros. So we don't need to go down that whole rabbit hole. And then to your point, like, I love when all these billionaires, whether good or bad or indifferent, they're like, oh, they're such a great person. They do really philanthropic things, and they give all this money to charity while they're like committing, like using slave labor for their business or just doing heinous crimes. That I would say, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of people do philanthropic things specifically for the optics, and it's just like, people buying forest in Scotland for the tax breaks and stuff like that. There's a lot of people don't do the majority of the things they do when they're in political positions for altruistic reasons. They do them because it will support their political aims.
Marry, fuck, kill, SBF, Mashinsky, Do Kwon. P, the question is directed at you.
Sweet baby Jesus. Oh man, this is an impossible one. Man. Wait, give me the three again. I'm still thinking
SBF, Do Kwon, Mashinsky.
Oh God.
Scammer trio unite.
Definitely gonna marry SBF because he's the richest of them. Oh God.
You should marry Do Kwon. You'll be on quite an adventure. I'm just saying. Like, you're just gallivanting around the world.
Oh God.
Q loves to travel. So
grind them all up, grind them all up, turn them into a monster, and then, marry, fucking kill the horrible Cronenberg monster. That's my answer. That's gonna be how it's gonna go down for sure.
You're gonna marry, fuck, and kill.
Yes.
The Cronenberg monster. Okay, cool.
Yes.
I was just gonna kill myself in that scenario, but
ooh, I like that answer. That is the best answer. You win this round. Yeah, for sure.
Chris, what are you like? I don't want to give you the same question, but like, we are kind of ignoring Mashinsky and all of this. I brought Do Kwon into the fold of this. Where does Mashinsky, Celsius fall under this sort of Do Kwon created a Ponzi scheme, working on Ponzi number 2, and is on the run with the cops. SBF is scamming you and looking you dead in the face and saying he's not. Where does Mashinsky fall on this scale?
I mean, he has like 10 million that he like stole from the company. So he's not like dead broke, but he's like not like billionaire status like he once claimed or thought he was with Celsius assets. I don't know. He's kind of like that rich, but not rich. So yeah, I don't know. Do Kwon's broke, but he's on the run and adventuring. SBF is a billionaire, but kind of he's also got like not a great personality in my opinion, but that's just me.
No, he kind of creeps me out, but I will say that the right answer is always to marry the richest one, because even if you're not going to stay with them forever, that divorce settlement is going to be nice. All right. I've talked about the evil villains long enough. Chris, let's talk about some U.S. debt.
Yeah, so right now, soon the US will owe more on its US debt than currently our defense budget. Well, what was our defense budget? For fiscal year 2021, it was $754 billion. What does that mean? Right now, we have interest payments on $31 trillion of debt. They're at different maturity rates or years. So obviously, when the government issues bonds, there's 30-year bonds, there's 10-year bonds, there's 2-year, 1 year, 6 month, 2 month, all those different variables. When we went into the corona crisis in March of 2020, a lot of them were for just a year or 2 year. So a lot of those have rollen over already at the lower rates back a few months ago. And now we've started hiking rates, obviously, within the last couple months. They're saying we're entering a death spiral. This is kind of a common theme that was made popular by Dylan LeClaire's the debt spiral, basically, or hyper Bitcoinization, the debt spiral, and also made popular by Greg Foss. They were talking about the interest debt will double if they leave rates for at above 4% for about 3 years. So we'd go from 31 trillion in debt to 62 trillion in debt, which is like you can't even fathom that. All the debt maturing rolls over at these higher rates right now. So it's kind of like it's an issue. We can't leave the interest rates this high for that long. We will not be able to afford it. But in the meantime, obviously, we've hiked rates. And while the economy has gone down, stocks, Bitcoin, crypto, everything has basically gone down. Maybe housing is starting to peak and go down. Everything else will be rolling over at these higher rates, like I've mentioned before. So, Pete, anything else you want to add there?
No, I think you nailed it. Q apparently has been taken out while he comes back. Let's keep going. Q, you there? Can you hear us? Your hat changed shape. Disaster.
Right. He is.
You look like shit.
All right, P. Hit the what's going on in Quebec. Give me why they're not going to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. So apparently, the Quebec government just announced that they will stop the sale of electricity to miners. The masses in social media seem to be nearly unanimously rejoicing about this. This is insane, infuriating, and ridiculous. Bitcoin mining takes up such a tiny percentage of the electricity usage of the world over. It's like less than 0.5%. Nobody complains about the amount of electricity that Christmas lights use, which use more than Bitcoin miners just during the month of December. Nobody gives a shit about how much electricity clothes dryers and clothes washers use. Nobody gives a shit about the amount of energy that is required in order to mine and store and trade gold. Nobody gives a shit about how much money and electricity it takes to, do so many different aspects of government that should be curtailed. But as soon as we start talking about Bitcoin, people lose their fucking minds. This is part of the larger ESG-based attack on Bitcoin, and it's absolutely absurd. Now, I just gave all those stats, but really the answer here is no one should be able to tell you or any entity what they get to do with energy that they have paid for fair and square. It doesn't make any sense. That is the real issue here. It's duplicitous, it's hypocritical, and it doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin mining is good for the environment. It allows energy producers to sell electricity, to use it to mine Bitcoin during off-peak hours. It increases the efficiency of power grids. It allows us to more effectively balance electricity usage. It's a net good in all cases. Additionally, there are ways that you can use Bitcoin mining to actually prevent greenhouse gases like methane from being released into the environment. It is a net good in general, but certainly for the environment. And these narratives are just being contorted excruciatingly to try to attack Bitcoin. It's got to stop. It's absolutely infuriating. And we should be using more energy to mine Bitcoin, not less. People should be rejoicing that Bitcoin miners are willing to come in and buy this electricity, not castigating them for it.
Hey, I'm going to ask you the question that was on, it was made famous on Rabbit Hole Recap from BitBlock Boom. Odell was asking a bunch of people on stage at BitBlock Boom, is Bitcoin mining in 20 years or 30 years, whatever your time frame, 20 to 30 years, can use closer to 50% energy or 0% energy, meaning that like if it uses 26% of the world's energy, it's closer to 50%. Like which side do you fall on? What do you think?
I think this is an impossible question to answer. In order to answer it, I have to
answer the fucking question.
I think it will be closer to 0%. I think it will increase dramatically.
The answer. No.
You got to let me qualify it.
Timestamp this. In 20 years, we're going to show this to P and call him a fucking moron. Okay.
Here's why.
Now justify yourself.
Now I'm going to justify it. Here's why it's important. I think that in 50 years, we are going to have discovered much more efficient ways to produce energy. We will be able to safely and effectively access energy deposits that are not available now. So the amount of energy that is available for consumption will have increased dramatically. So I think if you're asking it's like asking about inflation. Like, what do you think, when you're asking how much is something going to cost in the future, right? You always have to ask like, well, are we talking about it in today's dollars or future dollars? And I think that's a really important distinction. So I think that it will increase on both axes. So it will be, if you're talking in today's energy, I think it'll be, 5 to 10% of all energy. But I think in future energy, it will be potentially a smaller percentage because there will be more of it.
So you're saying in like in a fraction sense, if the numerator is the number of Bitcoin hash rate and the bottom is total global energy, you think we're going to grow the denominator faster with likes of small nuclear reactors, or we're just going to find more abundance of energy through sources like that?
Exactly.
I've heard that argument before, so I think that's possible.
I want a nuclear reactor in every home, and I want part of that energy going towards mining Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I totally agree with that idea notion. However, the obvious answer is more than half the world's energy will be used up by Bitcoin mining and or other Bitcoin sources, because the world's money will be Bitcoin by then. So P, the resident bear for today.
Let's let him go.
I wanted to throw this out there too, because like no, three top. I'm not going to the next story yet. I want to stay on this because the holiday season is upon us. We're in November, so for half of you, it's already Christmas time. For the other half, it's not. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, it's November. So like, why the fuck is it Christmas time? I digress. Christmas lights are going to start going up, as you pointed out. Every year the Christmas light energy usage far exceeds how much energy Bitcoin miners use, at least right now. I read a really interesting article earlier this week because, on Halloween, I was walking my dog, and my neighborhood is not one of those types of neighborhoods where like trick-or-treating is common. Like decorations on your house is like kind of tacky in this neighborhood. Like that's just the neighborhood I grew up in. But this year in particular, like I've seen a lot of Halloween decorations, and weirdly, like Halloween lights are a thing this year now too. And I was reading a report about how big box retailers like Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, they found that in their holiday sales, the highest margin item were decorations. So they doubled and tripled down. And this year in particular, they loaded up on Halloween decorations and had 4 or 5 times more inventory than they've ever in the history of this holiday. And all I'm saying is we're slowly going to creep into a system where everyone's going to have like some sort of a holiday decorated light outside of their house, and we're going to consume more energy. Like we just will. And they're trying to convince you, if you use energy for the holidays, like it's fine, it's good. But if you want to use energy to have sound money that we have no control over, that's bad. Like it's laughable. And I want to just hammer that point home because it's not thought through, I think, by these people as much as we think it through.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
We're all on the same page.
Maybe we're just an echo chamber. Who knows?
We're definitely an echo chamber, but we're a correct echo chamber. Deal with it.
I want to talk more about, rules for thee and not for me. And seriously though, guys, like why is no one talking about this? So I sent a tweet out that honestly, I just like the way I phrased the tweet. So I'm just going to say what I tweeted, but on this season of DC's Insider Tradings, we have a U.S. senator who sits on the Senate Finance Committee who has bought $110,000 worth of a ticker symbol HDGE hedge. What is this ETF, you ask? Well, my good friends, hedge is the range equity bear ETF, also known as how you can short the entire US stock market. So you're telling me, coming off of the year where it was not Wall Street that turned in the best returns, but it was actually DC insiders who were turning in the best ever returns on Wall Street, you have people now shorting the economy? Like, Nancy Pelosi, you are the devil for what you do, but like, this is exactly to a T what happened right before lockdowns got rolled out. When you had Kelly Loeffler and the other guy from Georgia buying up shares of Pfizer and Moderna, they started shorting the markets before lockdowns happened. And at the bottom, they started buying everything up. This reads the same way to me, guys. No different than the way Nancy Pelosi was buying NVIDIA when the CHIPS Act was being discussed. Like, did I buy some hedge? Not yet. Will I? Most likely. I found out, thanks to P, that even if I say not financial advice, do your own due diligence, you can still sue me. Please don't sue me. I live with my parents. I clearly don't have money. Like, if I did, I wouldn't live with my parents. But I open the floor to the two of you to discuss. I assume you have a similar level of frustration over this. My question, though, is more in tune of, or in the vein of, how do we solve this problem? Like, how do we hold our elected officials accountable? Because they very clearly will not pass forward any legislation to keep them accountable. Like, do we pull a GameStop here? Do we collectively as retail investors try to break this like ETF for the sake of bankrupting a bunch of politicians who are aping into it? Mind you, the guy only bought $110,000 worth of this ETF. Like, if it goes to zero, he's not going bankrupt. But like, the point I'm trying to get to is, how are we going to hold our politicians accountable? Because they very clearly will not hold themselves accountable in this realm.
Yeah, I mean, I think using Bitcoin is the solution to this. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You're trying to, Q, I like your point of like, let's try and go after them and try and like pump the ETF to break him. But when they have the ability to raise interest rates or print unlimited money, they can beat you on either game if they want to. So if you are on a Bitcoin standard, I'm okay with shorts, to be honest, because if you short and it goes against you, your coins get put back onto the market, at least in the Bitcoin sense. If you're shorting and you get blown up, they can just print a bunch of money to make you whole again. And that's like the issue. That's what's gotten us into this issue. Bailing out the banks, bailing out all the car companies, bailing out the airport, the airplane industry. Like, all these industries are like, we're too big to fail. We're too big to fail. And like, they keep getting bailed out. Like, we've been papering over our problems, and it makes things much, much worse for the lower and middle class than it does for the elites. Like, you mess up when you're an elite, you just go crying to your local politician or national politician, and they help you out. If you are poor and middle class and you get stomped on, they're like, oh, you're shit out of luck. It's your fault, not our fault. So I don't know. I think we want them to play by the same rules, and Bitcoin allows that. Just because Saylor has way more Bitcoin than all of us or many other people doesn't mean that he gets to change the rules. Doesn't mean he gets to get bailed out. If he gets a hit on a strike price for Bitcoin, it goes low enough, and his coins get dumped on the market, that's like fairly distributing them amongst the other participants on the network.
I think that you're on the right track, Chris. I was waiting for you to suggest, like, we need some kind of orange check mark, which is what you said before, Q, which I think is a horrible, horrible idea. You can't just like be like, does this politician support Bitcoin? Because first of all, we shouldn't care. And second of all, we should not expect them to actually continue having that view. And the answer here is, we need to continually invest in Bitcoin, investing in the Bitcoin ecosystem. What we can do as individuals, what we can do as communities, is continue to support Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, promoting Bitcoin, teaching others about Bitcoin, bringing as as many people into the Bitcoin fold per unit time as we possibly can. It's why the three of us are here on this show. It's why Bitcoin Magazine as a company exists. It's what we're doing. And I believe that that is the most effective thing that we could be doing to try to address this fucked up, backwards political system that we have. Everybody will eventually have to bend the knee to Bitcoin. And all we got to do is bring that world about as rapidly as possible.
Yeah.
So what you're both saying is we're just supposed to accept these politicians grifting us and taking all this money while they can?
Fuck no.
I don't have any US dollars, so they can grift all they want. I'm on the Bitcoin standard. I'm broke, but they're grifting their own system.
Good God. No.
No.
It's we don't try to fix the system from within the system in the way that I think you're suggesting it. I think that we educate politicians about Bitcoin, as many people are doing already, right? We're going to be doing this this live election coverage show on Tuesday night. That's going to be super fun. We're going to have a lot of people in that show talking about this type of topic. We've had a lot of people on this show who are hardcore Bitcoiners who are trying to change the system from the inside out. I think that is the right approach. Educate these people about Bitcoin, protect ourselves, invest in our privacy, invest in education, and those people will, more and more of those politicians will come around to Bitcoin, and then they will be incentivized by the way that Bitcoin works, by the way that the network works, to do things that bring them more Bitcoin, and those things will also support the Bitcoin network. It's the beauty of Bitcoin. One of the many beauties of Bitcoin.
I want to bring up something else though, because I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I kind of think that those are two separate issues. And what concerns me is the patterns and behaviors that politicians have learned and used today in this system that we have could just be recreated in different ways on a Bitcoin standard if we don't break through this system and explain in some way. If it means a fucking riot to say enough just fucking playing in a casino that you have, the cards that are going to get played in that casino, and you get to play in that casino against me, no less. Like, could you imagine sitting at a poker table in Vegas where the person next to you not only saw your cards, but also knew the cards that were coming? Like, you wouldn't play on that poker table, but we do in the stock market. And the point, I want to emphasize this because, this happened before I even joined Bitcoin Magazine, but last summer, there was that conversation going around the Fed and how different Fed members were starting to get called into question of like, hey, like, you guys are trading a little too much. You guys shouldn't be allowed to. And the decision that came out of that was 3 members of the Fed quietly stepped down, and then they changed the policies around slightly. Those 3 Fed members were never prosecuted, were never called into question, were never asked, what were you buying? And let's not kid ourselves. They're all in the same club. And they sat there and they're like, yo, I got rich as hell buying my Moderna stock early, and I'm not going to give that money up. And you damn sure know I ain't going to jail. So I'll go retire now.
Southern congressman or like,
because it wasn't me that did it. But the point I'm just trying to say, this is a repeated pattern that will just repeat in Bitcoin in some way. I don't know how, but we need to break that pattern. We need to break that. But we can continue on.
Let's bring it back to Bitcoin.
All right, fine, Chris. Talk KYC.
Sorry, you cut out there. Talk to us about
KYC.
Yeah, so KYC is the enemy. We talked about it. KYC stands for Know Your Customer. Not your keys, not your coins. So CashApp was recently successfully identifying and censoring Bitcoin transactions to Cuban residents. What do I mean by this? It was worded that censoring Bitcoin transaction to wallets of Cuban residents, but really was only not allowing, if you have CashApp, to send to a Cuban resident or citizen. I want to be clear that they're not censoring Bitcoin transactions. If you're operating in their ecosystem, they're stopping you. But if you were to buy non-KYC Bitcoin on something like BISC, HODL, RoboSats, you were to mine Bitcoin, and you take it into self-custody with your own wallet, you can send it to anyone and no one can stop you. So that's the big thing that I want to say. I know they advocate for, or Jack Dorsey obviously helped run Square or Block. Is it Block now or Square? I always forget. He runs that company. He obviously talks about the importance of free and open transactions, but at the same time, they're at the whim of the government. And if the government says you're not allowed to do business with them, either Jack Dorsey can say, I'm going to keep doing business with them, and they either send him to jail or send him to jail and give him an exponential fine or an exorbitant fine. So obviously he is opting not to do that. And I think this shows the importance of non-KYC Bitcoin and the dangers of KYC.
Yeah, I just want to speak to that a second. We should not expect companies that operate within the United States to be willing to breach sanctions like this. That would be suicide. And I think, as you pointed out, this is being blown slightly out of proportion. It is not them censoring the Bitcoin or trying to censor transactions on Bitcoin. They have an app, they have a company that operates in the United States, and they are required to prevent Cuban citizens from accessing their app, as I understand it. That's just the way that's just the way things work. You can't be a US company and breach those types of sanctions without massive, massive consequences. And I think it would be, I think it would be a mistake to take risks in that regard. And I think it would undermine the mission that CashApp has to try to fight that battle. Now you got to pick your battles. Is what I'm trying to say. I think there's other ways that CashApp is trying to bring Bitcoin to as many people as possible, as rapidly as possible. It sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
fuck the United States government for having those sanctions in place.
We've talked about these jurisdictional restrictions. I mean, we'll talk about Iran in a minute, but like, unfortunately, you kind of have whatever jurisdiction you operate under, like you have to abide by their rules. If you don't, like, then CashApp, you have a target on your back. So while you may not want to see this, while this is kind of antithetical to what Bitcoin is meant to be doing, if we do actually want to grow the Bitcoin network, if we want to continue to onboard more people, you kind of do have to dance the dance and play by their rules, at least for right now.
Well, as a company, they do. But Cubans absolutely should be using Bitcoin. Go get yourself a Bitcoin wallet. Go use a tool that is not required by U.S. sanctions to follow specific parameters. Bitcoin is borderless. Bitcoin is censorship resistant. There are many ways to get access to Bitcoin if you are a Cuban citizen. You should do so. And we're talking about a company versus access to Bitcoin, though the U.S. government is trying to prevent that.
I hope that the call to action from this is for people who, like, the dream is someone in Cuba is watching us, inspired by this, and is like, let me go make a KYC freed app for people to buy Bitcoin here in Cuba within my jurisdiction. And the next best thing is someone in El Salvador or a different jurisdiction that does not have the same strained relationship as the United States does with Cuba, who can create something or share this opportunity with the people there. That is your call to action, if there's someone out there who can make this dream a reality. But let's go to Meta. Turns out, I mean, look, we are almost 2 months away from the end of the year, and we can safely say, looks like Zuck's idea to go all in on the metaverse, at least for right now, probably a bad call. Meta is the worst performer in the S&P 500 this year. Look, Zuck is getting chastised for this move. Whether you agree with it or not, I think I can only speak for myself. I thought it was a silly thing to do, a little bit too gimmicky for my taste. I think you turned away from your core business, and in the short term, you're feeling the results of exactly that. In the long run, we don't know. Like, if I had a crystal ball to tell you, like, will the metaverse be legitimized or not? I think no, but I also thought Ethereum wouldn't merge. I also thought NFTs would all be worth zero at this point. Most of them are, but the truth and reality of what will happen is between the extremes. And the extremes right now are the metaverse is going to be where everything happens, or the metaverse is nothing. So somewhere between these two extremes is where reality will live. P is laughing at me. So
Chris, cut his mic. Fuck the idea of the metaverse. Three up. We need to see all of our faces. The fight has to, there we go. No, that one. The one that we hate. The three. Yeah, that's the one.
All right, yeah. Chris, stay between me and P right now.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to battle it out. No, I didn't mean to literally cut you off. I think even entertaining the idea that the metaverse is going to be the reality as Zuckerberg, proposes it with the stupid little Facebook
Hey, but they
style
got
icon
legs
is
now,
ridiculous.
guys. They have legs in the metaverse. This is a big step. They can walk.
Did you see the legs were going all over the place though? It's so funny.
Look, I think that what you were talking about a second ago, before I so rudely interrupted you, there was a massive, massive push for this idea that people were going to be able to interact with cryptocurrencies. And I always use quotes when I say that because the idea of cryptocurrencies is bullshit. There's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. Bitcoin is sound money. It is censorship resistant. It is decentralized. Everything else, well, let's say 99.9% of everything else that falls under the label of crypto or quote unquote blockchain is bullshit and is designed to separate you as an individual from your Bitcoin. Most people that are involved in those other spaces, they keep they keep a huge percentage of their portfolio in Bitcoin. They understand what's actually going on, and they create these other tokens and these other systems to try to extract that value in the form of Bitcoin from you into their own pockets. But enough on that rant. There was a huge push that was like, oh, Decentraland and the metaverse, and it's the new NFT bullshit, blah, 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 blah. This is classic bull market bullshit that happens. It's going to happen again, whether it's the metaverse or whatever the fuck it is. There'll be some new thing that everybody's going to be obsessed about. American Hodl, friend of the show, is convinced that it's going to be focused on decentralized identity, which I think is very possible. And I love that CashApp, or not CashApp, but Block is trying to get ahead of this. But I think it's just another flash in the pan, to be honest. I think that there will always be a space for virtualized environments. I think that's really fucking cool. But why it has to be combined with this idea of cryptocurrencies doesn't make any sense.
Because if you fit enough catchy taglines into it, Andreessen Horowitz will show up in your bathroom with $1 million check.
That's exactly how it works.
No, billion dollar check with a B.
Yeah, I mean, for Zuck, he'll get $1 billion checks from Andreessen. But look, I just think, like, I've said point blank, I think all of this stuff is really stupid. But I kind of don't think that is where this dies. Like, I don't think this dies, and I don't think this goes fully to where Zuck and a lot of these like big like the Winklevoss twins, another great example of people who are heavily investing into the idea of building out a metaverse. To your point, P, like, could you imagine if we did our staff meetings in the metaverse? Could you imagine if like we just record BM live in the metaverse? What if we are?
I mean, I have a very active imagination. Right, so yes, I can.
I mean, we are in a simulation right now. So like maybe we are just in the metaverse. I want to do one more thing really quickly. We could just leave a 3 up for now, and then P, you can go back to playing with your chickens. I want to update a conversation I had a few days ago with everyone regarding Iran. 3 days ago, there were a lot of reports coming out that Iran is most likely going to be bombing Saudi Arabia. The sources were coming out of the West. The sources were coming out of Saudi Arabia itself. We are now over 48 hours. Not a single bomb has been dropped. I will caveat all of this by saying, no, I wasn't right, and I'm not taking a victory lap. Khomeini, the Ayatollah in Iran, has been tweeting out and saying things to the vein of, we have not forgotten how the West has murdered Soleimani. We will strike back in due time. I do believe that Saudi Arabia was trying to use that tweet as leverage to scare us in the West. All I'm saying is, can we stop being Saudi Arabia's puppet? Can we stop just, doing whatever they want or need because we need their oil, when there is another country with billions of barrels of oil in reserve and citizens ready to have new leadership and a new regime? Why won't the West step in? Why won't they help? Because they'd rather actually keep the current regime in power. That's my follow-up rant on the Iran revolution.
So what is this? How do we relate this back to Bitcoin and freedom?
I mean, we could talk freedom about the fact that Iran, as of this point, has received the harshest and longest sanctions ever enacted by the West on any country in the history of the world. They've been under sanctions now since 1979, and we are reaching a point of critical mass where generations of Americans and generations of Iranians have only known each other to be adversaries, but that's not true. The only people in Iran who candidly view the West as adversaries are the religious leadership in Iran. You talk to the everyman, and most of them genuinely want to have a relationship and understand Western culture. That's why you see a lot of these uprisings, because they understand the Western influences. How this relates back to Bitcoin. Look, you have a currency that is collapsing. You have a country that has been barred from international trade, and earlier this year has announced and said, we will accept cryptocurrencies to complete international trade, because they even recognize the value of circumventing the US dollar. Now, by doing that, they have put a target on their backs from those who benefit from the petrodollar system, i.e. the US and all the OPEC plus allies that they have.
So I think that is a great point, right? Like, the people in an area are not the same thing as the government, the centralized government, and the people that are in power. And if there ever was a fantastic use case for a people, individuals, to be embracing a technology that allows them to separate the ability to store and transmit value from a corrupt government, it is somewhere like Iran. So I think that we absolutely should be encouraging the people of Iran to be learning about Bitcoin, to be using Bitcoin, to be using it as a tool to allow them to, remove the yoke around their neck that that the people that are in power there have placed there. And the same thing is true in many other places around the world. Governments use financial systems to try to control their populace, and the faster we can explain Bitcoin to people so that they can, reduce the effect that those governments have in that specific angle, the better off we'll be as a people, and the better off Bitcoin will be. Because remember, Bitcoin is for enemies, right? That's a fundamental aspect of it. And even if you don't share the same beliefs as someone, you should still want them to use Bitcoin, because that will improve the Bitcoin network.
Well said.
On that note, I want to remind everyone that there are a lot of conversations like this, specifically around Bitcoin as a tool for freedom. Bitcoin is a technology that empowers underrepresented groups. At our conferences, it's something that when I was doing the programming for Bitcoin 2022, I spent a lot of time thinking about, working with Alex Gladstein at the Human Rights Foundation. We just had some fantastic content on this at Bitcoin Amsterdam with Obinwasu, who was just on the show yesterday. I highly recommend that if you're interested in this, if you want to learn more about what we're talking about in this specific regard, go check out the videos that have been updated or that have been uploaded to YouTube. You can see those now. Also want to remind everybody that there will be more conversations like this, and of course, conversations specifically about every aspect of Bitcoin. At Bitcoin 2023, you can use code BMLive to buy tickets for that right now. You can save 10%. We also have the print mag, which you can also get on our website at bitcoinmagazine.com, and you can also use code BMLive to save 10% off of that as well. My friends, happy Friday. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week, same time, same place. Peace.